Lexi, and the theme that I have chosen to focus on for my podcast is immigration. And these books have been selected to focus on the importance of understanding how immigration impacts people of all ages. For this podcast, immigration can be defined as the action of coming to live permanently in a foreign country, which is defined by Google. I chose this topic because I feel like it is very relevant in our country and is even more relevant in other countries. In today's news, we are hearing a lot about refugees who are fleeing their countries due to instability caused by war and destruction, and I think that educating our children about these types of situations could make a big difference in how they are thinking about what is happening. On top of using these topics to discuss current events, they can be used to teach tolerance for people who are different from what we consider to be normal in our society. It seems like all we read about today is hatred for other people who are different, and I think that by using these books within the classroom, we can teach students that being different isn't a bad thing. Another reason to discuss the topic of immigration in the classroom would be to debunk the common stereotypes that many students may feel towards immigrants. As we will see later in the podcast, many people are moving to new countries to be with family, escape danger, or to try to make a better life for themselves. Students are also more likely to understand and want to discuss the topic if it is authentic to them. Through using these books, students will get a feel for what it is like to be an immigrant. The first book that I will discuss is called Dance of the Banished, and it was written by Marsha Forchuk Scripach. The main characters of the book, Ali and Zeynep, are living in Anatolia, a small region in Turkey, when Ali manages to escape to Canada before the Turkish government could enlist him to fight. Zeynep is forced to stay in Turkey as they do not have funds for both of them to escape. At the start of World War I, Canada joins the British forces, which automatically makes Ali an enemy of the war, according to Canadian forces. Despite his pleas to convince them that he is a refugee escaping his own government, Ali is thrown into an internment camp in Canada. Meanwhile, Zeynep is witnessing the horrors that come to be known as the Armenian Genocide. She is trying to save the lives of both the innocent and her own, and attempting to make it through the borders to Russia. This book is a must-read for anyone who is looking to become educated about a little-known piece of history. The next book is called No Safe Place and was written by Deborah Ellis. This book follows the journey of 15-year-old Abdul, who is desperate to escape his home in Baghdad after he lost his father and brothers when an American bomb was dropped in 2003 and his mother was shot and killed for driving a car. Abdul makes his way to France until he gets caught up in a riot, stabs a police officer, and then must flee by boarding a ship to England that is filled with other immigrants. Abdul meets 3 other teenagers, Rosalie, Cheslev, and Jonah, and learns about each of their stories and why they are fleeing the country illegally. This story follows the teens and flashes back to the events in their lives that have led them to where they are now. This book would be interesting to use in a high school setting by discussing the impact the Iraq War has had on both countries. The third book I have chosen is titled I Will Come Back for You and was written by Marcibina Russo and describes the fictionalized tale of her Jewish family's real account of living in Italy during World War II. In this story, a grandmother describes the charms on her bracelet, each of which has a symbolic meaning connected to the events of living in Italy as it began to support the events of Nazi Germany. During the story, the grandmother's husband is forced to live in an internment camp and describes the rest of her family was forced to be living into hiding. Eventually, they were able to escape to the United States once the war had ended, and she recounts the transition. This book would be great to use with younger children to introduce the concept of the Holocaust, as it introduces it in a way that is way less intense. The next book is called Behind the Mountains. It was written by Edwidge Dunnicat and is a story about a girl named Celianne who was living near the city of Haiti with her mother and brother. Celianne's father lives in New York City, which is where they aim to be, but lack the funds to make it possible until the family's van is bombed. Celianne, her mother, and brother make the journey to live with her father in America. The family finds the transition extremely hard, and in turn, their family structure begins to crumble. The major elements that Celianne details her struggles with include the harsh New York winters, learning English, and other academic-related struggles, such as the amount of violence that occurs in schools. This book follows the journey and exposes the reader to the various aspects that people who immigrate to a new country struggle with. The last book is called Flying the Dragon and was written by Natalie Diaz-Lorenzi. This book is about a girl named Sky whose family is originally from Japan, but she lives in the United States. Sky's grandfather gets sick, which propels a move to her town by her aunt, uncle, cousin, and grandfather, none of whom she has ever met. Her cousin Hiroshi is having a hard time adjusting to life in America, and Sky is having a hard time helping her cousin adjust. Both of the children have to give up things they love in order to help the other. For example, Sky must learn Japanese, and Hiroshi has to come to terms with the fact that his grandfather, who happens to be his best friend, is dying. They come together as a family in the end, but this story details the struggle of not only adjusting to a new culture, but helping important family members to do the same. I found all these books to be extremely interesting and relevant to the theme of immigration and would recommend them using in a classroom setting. Thank you.